Hello, all you happy people, and welcome to the 2025 installment of the annual Foreign Indie Animated Movie Guide. I'm your host, Antic, and the year is obviously coming to a close again, which means it's time to take a look back at the animated films that I liked this year. And as always, I try to watch some films from other countries and indie studios to broaden my palette, and I'm going to talk about my personal favorites today. Now, like always, this is a subjective list. If you agree or disagree about the films I liked, totally fine. Film is a subjective art form after all, and you're the one that should make your own opinion. And keep in mind, I'm only going to talk about the films that I saw this year and the ones that I liked. There are a few animated films that I still couldn't get the chance to see this year, like Arco, Scarlet, or The Legend of A2, which I'm hoping to get to in the new year, hence why they won't be on the list. And also, I'd rather promote the good films out there rather than waste your time with a bad one. Also, as a warning, I will talk about films based on shows in this video, so some mild spoilers may come out when I talk about those films. So let's not waste any time and get straight into it. I'll be taking a look at the films in alphabetical order, and let's start from the top. To kick things off, here's an animated film from China that was released in 2024 that missed my radar called Art College 1994. This is the film that I've seen a bit of divisive response towards, as some have labeled it pretentious and not really a film that has much to say. But this is a film that I personally found myself vibing with a lot, and it's one that I'm going to stick my neck out for. As the title suggests, it takes place at an art college in China in 1994 and follows two students desperately trying to find their identities as artists and carve out who they are in their work they create, as well as the passions they follow and the people they meet. That's essentially the gist of it. This really isn't a film that has much of a plot, as it really is a film where you just follow a group of kids trying to find themselves and talk about their tangents of being artists, and I ended up finding this film exceptionally engrossing. There are some interesting tangents that are talked about this film, with one significant highlight being at the beginning of the film where the students talk about the infamous 27 Club after the tragic death of Kurt Cobain, as well as one bit where the main character and a girl he likes talk about their hopes and dreams on a bridge, determined to see if they'll be able to accomplish them. For some people, this might seem like a bit much and just very overcluttered and stuffed. I don't know, I'm very much a nerd, and I can find myself going down bizarre tangents like that, so I ended up getting a lot more invested in this than I should. And overall, I just really vibed with the atmosphere of the film, especially as someone who came fresh out of film school almost 2 years ago and am still in a place where I'm still not fully sure where I'm able to go with my life. I can admit, though, the film isn't flawless, as the animation does have its drawbacks due to some of the limitations it has, making certain effects stick out worse than they should, and also the film just running way too long, which is a problem a handful of animated films from China seem to have. They do feel somewhat overstuffed at times. But I still found this an engrossing watch, and I do recommend it for anyone who wants to indulge in thought-provoking conversations about being an artist and feeling nerdy and whatnot. I'm giving Art College 1994 an 8. Here's a really unique little indie film that I ended up digging a bit. Boys Go to Jupiter, a coming-of-age story from director Julian Glander. I remember hearing some buzz about this one in the indie film circuit, which is what made me want to see it, and I can say that while this is a certainly strange film, it's still one that I did end up really enjoying. It takes place in Florida during Christmas break and follows a boy named Billy, whom has recently quit school, stopped hanging around with his crummy friends, and is currently working for an online delivery service to try to get money to move out of his sister's house. And so, the film mostly just follows him trying to make some money by delivering food to some bizarre customers, while some strange occurrences start happening around him. If there's one benefit this film has over some of the other animated films on this list, it's easily its low-budget charm. There's a certain lo-fi energy to this film with its calming music and quirky songs, as well as its animation, which resembles an indie video game. Not to mention, it benefits from its cast members Jack Corbet, Janeane Garofalo, and even Elsie Fisher. They're all great in this film and really help bring these characters alive in a way that makes this film work big time. The characters are all very well written, and they have a lot of interesting quirks to them, and the way we see Billy struggle feels genuine as he tries to break away from his crummy older friends and be a bit more independent. I can say from experience that the whole thing with the delivery service subplot was very relatable. I did at one point work for one of those companies, and it sucked, by the way. They did not treat their delivery people well. And seeing the people this kid has from the crummy restaurants that take forever, the strange requests from the customers, and the terrible customer service with how badly they pay you out, oh, I felt that so much. Great stuff. I will say that this is a film that could be something that could be a bit out of reach for some people, and I won't lie when I say that some of the film's oddities were something I fully didn't get on board with, though it's a film that if you have the right wavelengths towards, you can really embrace. It's certainly an unforgettable film that I did have plenty of fun with. I'm gonna give Boys Go to Jupiter an 8. Last year, I remember naming my favorite of the foreign indie animated films that I saw being Look Back, a film based on the manga by Tatsuki Fujimoto. And now we're back to his work, and this time at the opposite end of the spectrum, from something cozy and comforting to something crazy and deranged with Chainsaw Man. This is a genuinely insane story about a boy named Denji, whom happens to have his body shared with a devil whom has chainsaw abilities, and he's recruited by an organization to take out devils throughout Japan. And one of the arcs from the story was recently adapted into a film with Chainsaw Man Reze Arc. This is a film that I think anyone can enjoy, especially if you have seen the show and read the manga, and I can say this really does give everything you could expect out of a Chainsaw Man film. It follows Denji as he ends up meeting a very strange girl named Reze, whom really seems to be infatuated with him. The two start to bond, but soon Reze starts to reveal there's more to her than you would expect, and Denji has to figure out how to navigate around her. That's basically the best way I can put it without getting into spoilers, but let's just say this film is really one that's broken down into two different halves. The first half of the story is basically a very quiet and thoughtful reflection piece, while the second is a balls-to-the-wall action film that's quite insane. I loved both of these parts a whole lot, but I do prefer the first half with just how thoughtful it is and how interestingly put together certain moments are. My favorite scene in the film is where Denji goes on a movie date with his strange boss, Miss Makima, and they end up watching a whole bunch of films and only end up really truly connecting with the final film they see. I recently started to get back into broadening my horizons, and I watched a whole bunch of different movies this year, and I really connected and vibed with this whole segment. Especially with the idea that one great movie can possibly change your life, which is something that I do find myself agreeing with. Though, I can also say that the second half of the film is truly a lot of fun. The animated action is a total blast and is absolutely top-notch and thrillingly crafted that it's hard not to have fun, especially with seeing Denji just go truly insane as he defeats a certain figure. Plus, there's just a lot of great cinematic flair present in this film that will leave anyone entertained and building to a very thoughtful and heartbreaking ending. This is quite an entertaining ride, and I recommend it to people who have and even haven't seen the show or read the manga. It really works as its own thing that I'm sure anyone can get a whole lot out of this. I'm giving Chainsaw Man Reze Arc a 9. Speaking of popular things that came out of Japan, one notable character is Hatsune Miku, a popular Vocaloid in Japan that has become a famous musical artist worldwide. I confess my knowledge of her, as well as Vocaloids in general, are very limited, as well as the video game this upcoming film is based on, but that didn't stop me from watching and enjoying the new film that came out featuring her, Colorful Stage the Movie, a Miku Who Can't Sing. I did have a best friend do a crash course of me to try to get up to speed on certain things in this film, so I did have a bit of knowledge going into it. And even I can say with the very limited knowledge I had, I still had a lovely time with this film. The basic gist of it is that it involves 5 different bands throughout Japan who have their own virtual guide that allows them to find themselves and getting their music out there, that all soon end up discovering one virtual guide who's determined to break herself out, but is unable to reach the people she wants to help. And so, the 5 groups, without ever meeting in person, try to figure out how to make this Miku reach the people she's trying to get to. At a time where things have been exceptionally stressful and people have been on the edge for a lot of reasons, this is a film that I can really see helping out a lot of people, and it's a film that I really found an exceptionally emotional experience. It's a film that's about what it means to create art that can help others, and reaching out to help the other people that need it during rough points in their lives, and it really did make this film such a worthwhile experience, especially with how dynamic the animation is, the really fantastic editing, and the music being just fun to listen to. Well, the film does feel a bit overstuffed with its characters, and it can be hard to keep them all straight due to the bands having various different members. All of them in the film are very dynamic and have a lot of fun, punchy energy to them, and the Hatsume Miku they meet is a very sweet character to see. And it does lead to an ending that was a big highlight to see, and one that my audience really responded well to. It's just a genuinely sweet little film, and I had a good time with it. Check it out if you want some good music and some comforting emotions. I'm gonna give Colorful Stage the movie A Miku Who Can't Sing an 8. If there's a director working in animation that I have really grown to love lately, it's Nako Yamada. She's the filmmaker who's behind TV shows like K-On! And Tamako Market, and the two films A Silent Voice and Liz and the Bluebird, all of which I love, especially A Silent Voice, which I think is a masterpiece. And now she came out with a new animated film entitled The Colors Within, her first film to be made at Science Saru rather than Kyoto Animation. Naturally, I love her work, especially the way she and writer Reiko Yoshida handle teenagers, and I can say this is another fantastic film from them. Dare I say it, this might be one of my absolute favorites, right behind A Silent Voice. The film follows a young teenage girl named Tatsuko, a girl whom can see people as colors, who becomes interested in another girl named Kimi, whom just so happens to be a musician. After the two meet, Tatsuko decides to get to know her better by starting to play music with her, and soon after, a boy named Rui ends up joining them, allowing them to become a band. And the rest of the film basically follows them as they dive deeper into their music and as all three face certain problems in their own personal lives. I've said before that I'm a huge sucker for coming-of-age stories featuring children and teenagers. If anything, I feel quite confident calling it my favorite genre of film. And this is another excellent addition to it. All of the three teens are so richly defined with their own sets of anxieties and dreams, and it was so rich and wistful written by Yoshida, and handled with such a mature and delicate touch by Yamada. It's definitely the lightest film they made that doesn't carry the same sad touch that was in their previous films, but that is by no means a criticism. I love how uplifting this film is, and it's truly a film that made my heart sing as we watch these three kids come together and bond through music while having their own problems in their life. It's always nice to see something where children and teenagers are written in an honest manner, and this is easily one of the most honest portrayal of teens I've seen all year. Adding on top of that is the gorgeous animation, which takes the fairy tale portions from Liz and the Bluebird and expands them so richly with its vibrant colors and limited imagery, and also the incredible music as well. The pop songs the teens write in this film are very catchy and have a great 80s sound to them. I especially love the song they write about the planets. That one is easily my favorites. This was a film that I genuinely adored a lot, and it's easily among my favorite watches of the year, and considering I saw the film back in January, that's saying a lot. But what can I say? It's simply delightful, and I can't wait to watch it again. I'm giving The Colors Within a 9. Here's a small little film for those wanting to pass the time. The Concierge, an animated film from Japan produced by Production IG, the same studio behind films like Ghost in the Shell. This is based off a manga of the same name and follows a young woman named Akino, who works at a department store whose customers are all animals. And the film is basically just her trying to solve the problems that the customers have. That's basically it. The film is relatively short, it's less than an hour, but it's one that really does get the job done at being a comforting watch, and it was a film that I really just found myself wrapped into. The film has a children's book vibe to it with its bright colors and simple character designs, and the fact that it just has a nice message about what it means to help others and to do your job as properly as you should. We may not get a lot of insight into our main character's head, but she's a very adorable protagonist whom I felt for a lot, and I was really hoping just to see her succeed in the end, as she does help the various customers out in the department store. One of the highlights is one customer who has been trying to track a very rare perfume to give to the girlfriend he wants to propose to, or another is a father and a daughter whom are both very busy in their own personal lives trying to buy each other a gift. I just really love the characters in this, and I especially just vibe with the message on wanting to try hard to make people happy. And that's a goal I think we should all have at rough times like this. Though, it's also a film that does show that it is a very tricky situation to do, and sometimes things just don't go the way you want. And that is something that I can really get behind. This is a film that I really don't have a whole lot else to say about because of how short it is, but if you want to see a film that's simple and sweet, this should do just the trick. I'm giving The Concierge an 8. Another big anime show I got to binge throughout 2024 and caught up on in 2025 was Demon Slayer, the show about a young boy named Tanjiro, whom, after his family was slaughtered and his sister was turned into a demon, becomes a member of the Demon Slayer Corps, whose goal is to slaughter the main demons in Japan and take down its leader, Muzan Kibutsuji, while trying to figure out how to turn his sister back into a human. It's a show that's really been held up as one of the best anime shows out there, and yeah, it easily meets the hype. It's a great show with plenty of interesting lore, great bloody action, and some fun characters. For those wondering, my favorite is Inosuke. Demon Slayer has been no stranger to the big screen, having gotten a movie in 2020 with Mugen Train, which I did really love, and now the story has reached its climax that's being broken up into a 3-part film finale beginning with Demon Slayer Infinity Castle. As someone who really enjoyed this series, I was eager to see the start of this epic 3-part film finale, and I can say this first part is a lot of fun. It follows the remaining members of the Demon Slayer Corps getting sucked into the lair of Kibutsuji, a never-ending infinity castle that's crawling with demons, which I would describe as an MC Escher lithograph from hell. And so Tanjiro, the remaining Hashira, and Tanjiro's friends face off in defeating several of the demons in the lair, hoping to finally end Kibutsuji's reign of terror once and for all. I'm going to try to tread lightly talking about this film because you do need to have the knowledge of the TV series in order to see this movie, and even the manga to get something out of it. But I'll just say this one is pretty damn great. It has everything you could get out of a Demon Slayer film. Great bloody action? Check. Gorgeous animation? Check. Surprisingly dark moments? Check. Great character drama? Ooh, big check. That was easily the thing I really liked about this film, is that it did have a lot of good character moments when we saw them. The standout moment involves Tanjiro's scaredy cat friend, Zenitsu, whom encounters a demon he's all too familiar with, and has to battle him. It's easily the biggest highlight of the film, and I'd argue it's probably the best scene. However, the film does have its drawbacks, as great as it is. For one, it's far too long. The film is 2 hours and 30 minutes, and it does not need to be. Most of the problem comes from a big flashback at the end, while still really good, goes on for way too long and probably should have been trimmed. The other is also the core problem that was always going to plague this film, which is that because it's a part 1, it does feel like there are plenty of threads hanging and certain characters only get briefly glimpsed at, which feel a bit meaningless for this installment. But that's basically it. The film is still tons of fun and sure to be an epic start to a pretty big finale. Definitely check this one out, especially if you love the show. I'm giving Demon Slayer Infinity Castle a 9. For anyone that's seeking out more queer animation at the moment, here's a film from Australia that can check off that box called Lesbian Space Princess. And yep, the title basically speaks for itself, and it's exceptionally fun. The film does indeed revolve around a lesbian space princess named Syra, who's basically an anxious mess and is a total introvert and has just had her bounty hunter girlfriend Kiki dump her. However, when Kiki is kidnapped by the stray white Malian, she is forced to set off to leave her home planet to rescue her ex with the help of a problematic ship and a pop idol named Willow. This is a film that is totally insane, totally queer, and totally goofy, and I had a total blast with it. It's a film that has a lot of crazy Adult Swim energy in it with its animation, and especially the humor, which is easily some of the funniest I've seen all year. There are so many great gags and fourth wall breaks that I could tell you, but you just have to see it for yourself. And not just that, it also has some delightful characters, with Willow being my particular favorite. They just have such a lovable energy to them and are a ray of sunshine that just makes you smile. Not just that, I did also really like the growth that the Syra character has with how she grows throughout the entire film. The film is a great portrayal of anxiety and doubts within yourself and how to commit in a relationship and what it's like for people to bring out a better self from within you, and this film really does show that very well, all without having to sacrifice its quirky oddball energy and hilarious humor. That being said, the film has two stumbles. One is its animation, which I felt could have been a bit more polished than it is, and the other, which is my biggest complaint, is how the film does backtrack from something it was building up to. It seemed like the film was really going somewhere special with a relationship between certain characters, but then it just chickens out, and it was exceptionally frustrating and feels very poorly thought out. It was a shame because it did bring the film down a grade for me. But still, when you have a film that is this funny, this queer, and this exceptionally unapologetically goofy, it's hard to be upset. It's a film that lives up to its title, and that gave me enough. I'll give Lesbian Space Princess an 8. I've seen a lot of fantastic animated films this year, though if I had to pick my absolute favorite, that would be none other than Little Amélie or the character of Rain. Without hesitation, I can say that this is easily my favorite film that I have on this list, and also one of the best animated films that I have seen come out this decade so far. There have been a lot of good animated films that have come out of France over the years, but this is one that really goes to a whole new level, and the result is one of the most captivating and beautiful watches I've seen in a while. The film follows a young Belgian girl named Amélie in her early years of childhood while she's growing up with her family in Japan. And the film is mostly just following her exploration of the world through the people she meets, mainly with the bond that she has with the housekeeper who introduces her to the beauty that's within the world. I briefly talked about this in my In Your Dreams review, but I've gotten a lot more critical about how children and teenage characters have been written lately, since it can be very easy to screw them up. You have to approach it from an honest and genuine perspective, as they aren't people you can easily pull out of a cereal box and have these archetypal personalities that a Hollywood writer thinks they have. It's why when they're done right, they really shine. There were 2 examples this year that really got it right for me. One was the Pixar series Win or Lose, and the other was this film. And this really absolutely nails it. This is a beautiful showcase on what it means to be young and to be introduced to the world and see the people who inhabit it in their own special way. The Amélie character is so pure and delicate with how she sees the world from her own eyes, and it makes the writing feel so natural and interesting. There's nothing forced with how she sees the world, and it was something that utterly captivated me, especially with the bond that she has with the housekeeper Nishio-san. The way that she learns about the world and the beauty of it from her is very rich, and she also gets a sense on both the good and bad with the way she's taught, and it's utterly sublime. One of the best moments in the film is when Nishio is talking about her experience of the Second World War towards Amélie, and the only depiction of it in her experience is just watching Nishio making the dinner. It's such a pure stroke of genius filmmaking. I should also say that the animation in this movie is absolutely breathtaking as well, with its lineless animation and gorgeous color palettes. It really takes advantage of Amélie's point of view of the world and how she sees the beauty of it in a fresh manner, and this is just a showcase on how animation is the only way that this story could have been told. I could go on and on and on about this movie, but I think you get the point. If anything, I don't think words could do this film justice. All I can say is, go see it. It's one of the best of the decade and a massive frontrunner for the Oscar. I'm really going to be rooting for this one at award season. I'm giving Little Amélie or the character of Rain a very absolutely well-deserved 10. If I had to pick a genre of film that is the hardest for me to click with the most, it's easily the romance genre. Those are the types of movies that can be so easily messed up if they're approached badly. If they're done right, they're like licking the sweetest candy, but done wrong, it's the equivalent of licking a bar of soap. Lost in Starlight, though, is a film that I can easily say is like candy. This is an animated film from South Korea that dropped on Netflix back in May, and it's one that I really thought was such a sweet and lovely story. It takes place in the near future and follows a couple in Seoul, mainly an astronaut named Nanyang and a musician named Jae. The two meet one another and begin a romance as they share their hopes and dreams before Nanyang is enlisted by NASA on a mission to Mars. And so, the two's relationship is put to the test to see if their love can reach the vast distance of the stars. This is a film that really knows how to tackle the struggles of a long-distance relationship and the pain that comes from it. We feel bad as we see them being millions of miles apart and their hopes of trying to accomplish their dreams while keeping their love alive and the sacrifices they had to make to get to that point. And it's all done just so wonderfully with some very strong writing and its gorgeous animation. Though obviously, being a love story, this is a film where the romance is something you want to see, and I can say there is certainly a lot of cheesy stuff here, but the good kind of cheesy. If it's done wrong, it can be really eye-rolling, but this film knows how to do it right with its little moments, which includes the couple's first kiss in an elevator. That was such a cornball moment, but I didn't care. It was sweet and just adorable, and I really smiled while watching it. As I stated, the animation in the film is also simply gorgeous, as it reminded me a lot of the films of Makoto Shinkai. There's a lot of the same DNA of Your Name and Suzume ingrained in the film, and it really works. The film does have a few bit of stumbles, which includes the couple meeting feeling a bit contrived and overplayed, as well as the ending feeling both stretched and even rushed at the same time. But it's such a lovely endeavor that it's hard to stay mad. If you're a sucker for a good love story, this is one that should check off the boxes you're hoping for. I'm gonna give Lost in Starlight a 9. Last year, I reviewed the first movie in a new film adaptation of the anime series Mononoke called Phantom in the Rain, which I really loved. Now we have a second film that follows up on it entitled The Ashes of Rage. While this new film may be a bit shorter than its predecessor, I can also say that it's also even better, and that is saying a lot given I love the first film. It takes place after the events of the first film, where the medicine seller returns to the women's quarters of the inner chamber as they try to figure out whom can be the next heir of the chamber. However, as everyone is fighting with one another, a Mononoke emerges in the palace again and starts to burn people to ash. And so, the medicine seller once again has to slay it by trying to find its form, truth, and reason. If there's one big benefit that this film has, it's the animation, which is terrific as usual. I love psychedelic animation, and this is no exception, with its bright colors and trippy atmosphere, which leads into an explosive finale that is absolutely surreal, all while building upon its predecessor with themes that are even more dense than before. The mystery revolving around the Mononoke is a lot more involving in this installment, and I'd argue there's more at stake due to how ruthless the creature is and how it's seemingly tearing everyone apart, especially as one of the ladies finds herself pregnant. And it's a film where the themes do get under your skin with its great psychological horror, which builds to the aforementioned climax that is so involving and well put together that I'd argue it really surpasses its predecessor in every way possible. The film is only a breezy hour and 14 minutes, as I said, and it sure does go by fast. I barely felt its runtime at all. I do wish, though, that some of the pointless tension in the film was thrown out. I'm really not sure why they needed to put in the medicine seller being prohibited from entering the Uku again, as he already slain a Mononoke in the first movie. But still, this film is gorgeous, rich with psychological horror, and dripping in atmosphere. It's a stellar follow-up to the predecessor, and I'm eager to see how they stick the landing with a third film next year. I'm gonna give Mononoke the movie The Ashes of Rage a 9. Oh yes, there was no way I was going to pass up talking about this one. After all, it is the highest grossing animated film of all time as of now. Neja 2, the hit sequel to the animated action film made from China. When this film was really breaking box office records at the beginning of the year, I decided to check out the original Neja, and I did enjoy it a bit. I can't say it's a great film since it did have some problems, but it was a solid animated action film that had a great main character and some really stylish action. Naturally, it did make me even more curious to check out the sequel, and I can say after seeing it, I can totally see how this became the biggest animated film of all time. The first Neja was simply a good movie. Neja 2 is a great movie. This is absolutely one of those sequels I can easily say is better than its predecessor, and probably one of the most insane animated films I've seen this entire year. But man, it sure was a blast. It takes place immediately after the events of the first film, when the embodiments of the Demon Orb and Spirit Pearl, Neja and Ao Bing, have had their bodies destroyed and are desperate for a new one to prevent their souls from fading away. While Neja has had his body successfully recreated, Ao Bing's body falls apart due to some circumstances. Desperate to get a new body, the two set off together, with Ao Bing's soul sharing Neja's body, to compete in 3 trials to get a potion, hoping to get Ao Bing a new body before a war breaks out. There have been some really unimpressive sequels that have come out this decade, and I can say that this is one film that really does know how to step up the bar in every way possible. The story has a lot more stake to it, the emotional bonds are a lot stronger, especially with Neja and his mother, and also the bond he has with Ao Bing. The animation is dazzling, and I really cannot state this enough. The action in this film is absolutely intense. This is one of the most thrilling and insane animated action films I've seen this entire year, with every set piece feeling thrilling, and there is so much stake to be found here. It's especially evident in the third act, which is really turned up to 11 and is so crazy and topping itself every minute that it never feels like it's too much, and it's just controlled so effortlessly. Also, I can't imagine how those rendering computers could have handled it. Though, besides the great action, the story is also one that really does feel stepped up too. Without getting into spoilers, the film really does pull the rug out from viewers' feet in the second half and is basically an unpredictable from there, and I love it when a story can do that. This is a film that really juggles so many things, and yet it handles it all so effortlessly. The only thing I do wish the film did fix was the toilet humor, because yeah, it's still not very good. It's not nearly as bad as it was in the first film, but I still didn't find it very funny, and it is very eye-rolling. But when the film has amazing twists and turns like it does, and action so intense, it's hard to stay mad. This is a terrific sequel, and easily one of the best animated films to come out of China yet. I'm giving Neja 2 a very strong 9. And to wrap things up, we have one more animated film from Japan to talk about called 100 Meters. This is a film from director Kenji Iwasawa, who made the very funny comedy On Gaku Our Sound a few years ago. And while 100 Meters is a complete departure from that, I can say that Iwasawa's craft as a director has truly gotten a lot stronger in this film, because I really ended up loving it a whole lot. The film is about two boys whom both aspire to become a top-notch runner in the 100-meter field race, and it follows both as they grow up and watch how their craft evolves over time, and when their two separate paths cross throughout the years. If there was a film this did remind me a lot, it's probably Look Back, which also was about two young characters whom both want to strive to be the best at something and flourish with making stronger art. And while that might be a better film than this, I can say this film really does stand well on its 2 feet. Both of the boys in this film are very compelling characters, and the way they both take to the sport is interesting to watch, as they both better themselves through their technique, while also taking what they learn from others and apply it in a different manner as they overcome challenges and obstacles along the way. It's riveting stuff, and I ended up grasping onto this a lot. And it helps that the film is gorgeously animated. This is one of the biggest benefits that Kenji Iwasawa improved on from his previous film, as the rotoscoping on display is in top form, and it leads to some exceptionally gorgeous shots, with one of the best ones coming from a long tracking shot that shows the characters getting in the starting positions before a race while it's raining. It is some incredible animation, and I was blown away by it. And the animation also includes small little details that I really didn't appreciate, which included one moment where, during a Q&A, a character mid-sentence is handed a microphone. I love little moments like that, as it's a great touch that adds a sense of realism to the world. Plus, the two main characters are both very well written and crafted, and they both feel very real. The film's only struggle is with its supporting players, who aren't as well fleshed as they could be. At best, I can say they were underdeveloped, and at worst, they were one-dimensional. But at the end of the day, the film is so well put together and so riveting to watch that I ended up having a great time. Don't pass this one up, because it is a major highlight for this year. I'm giving 100 Meters a 9. And that's what I got to see this year. If there's any animated films that were foreign or independent that you saw that I didn't talk about, let me know in the comments below. Until then, I'll see you all in the next video where I recount my favorite mainstream animated films of the year. Take care, folks.